Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I will be giving you my very early impressions of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This was sent to me for review by the people at Paizo Publishing, and I just want to thank them for sending this to me. But as a reminder, they are not paying for the review, they're not controlling what's said in the review. When they send these things out, they genuinely want honest, feedback, and one of the things that I really appreciate about working with them is just their openness and receptiveness to getting that sort of like feedback and criticisms, and really taking it to heart. And what I have in front of me is really, sort of a testament to their ability to sort of, take that feedback and use it to create something really, really great. So Pathfinder 2nd Edition is a product that I've been waiting for years now, actually. I've always had people ask in the past, once I started making videos, one of the more common questions that I've used to get was, do I plan on covering Pathfinder? And I always felt bad because the answer was no at the time. And it's not that I thought Pathfinder was a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It was definitely a well done, well put together product. And the fact that it lasted a decade from the time that their version of the rules was released to the time that their 2nd edition of the rules has been released is definitely says a lot. The problem that I always had with it, though, was it was very similar to the source material they had for the Open Gaming license. And that particular version of that particular role-playing game was one that I had essentially, I don't want to say ran to death, but I had run either the original version or the revised version for over a decade. And I just reached the point where I was really burnt out on it and just don't really have a desire to run that particular type of game again. And Pathfinder, while it was definitely better and very much an improvement on the previous version of of that particular role-playing game, it was still close enough that I just wasn't interested. But this is something I've been hoping for and wanting for years, and does it live up to those hopes that I've had? So right now I've had this for about 24 hours, and within that 24-hour period, the answer to that seems to be a pretty resounding yes. I haven't had a chance to go through and read a ton of the book yet, there's still chapters that I haven't really gotten to, like the comprehensive combat rules I haven't read yet. I've only sort of glanced through the spells, magic items and stuff like that. So this is essentially a very, very early impressions video. But I still wanted to get something out there and just sort of talk about some of the things that I really like about this new version of the Pathfinder role-playing game, for those that may be sort of, I don't want to say on the fence, but trying to determine if they want to pick this up or not. So, like I said, these are my early impressions based off about 24 hours of having this in my possession. So the first things first, obviously, we got to talk about character creation. And the character creation system in Pathfinder 2nd Edition is very similar to what we had in Starfinder, which I still sort of contest was probably their way of testing the waters for some ideas that they had for 2nd Edition Pathfinder while still making its own game. But in this game, in 2nd Edition Pathfinder, all of your attributes, strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, they all start with a base number of 10. And you get either boosts, which are a +2 bonus, or you get a flaw, which is a -2 penalty to your ability scores. So you start with a base of 10, and your ability scores are influenced by your race, which this game, in this version of the game, and it's probably one of the bigger changes that I have to get used to in terms of the terminology, would be the fact that races, what we've always referred to as races, are now referred to as ancestries. So ancestries will determine some of your ability scores. So your ancestry typically, and we'll just get to some of the races here, and I'm actually going to go to one particular race because it's kind of got one of my favorite abilities ever in an RPG, which, if considering what the race is, it's kind of unusual. But let's just go ahead and we're going to go right to the halfling as an example. So we start with a base scores of 10, and then we get ability boosts. So the halflings get a boost to dexterity and wisdom, as well as one free boost. So that free boost can go into any of the scores that haven't been increased so far by the ancestry. So you could put that boost into strength if you wanted to. You could put that into constitution, you could put it into intelligence, or you could put it into charisma, but you cannot double dip and put it into dexterity or wisdom. Now you also get your ability flaw, determined by your race, which in the case of the halfling is strength. So if you wanted to, you could put that free bonus, that free boost, into strength and just sort of negate the penalty and get back up to having the 10 for the base number. So in addition to your ancestry giving you a boost to your ability scores, you also gain a boost for your background. And backgrounds are essentially what you've done before you became an adventurer. And they've got a pretty interesting list. So you have your typical ones, like you have acolytes, you have sages, you have warriors, but there's also things like barkeep, which I thought was, was kind of cool. And so they'll usually give you one free boost, or they'll give you one determined boost, and then one free one. That's typically how that works. And then finally, you have your class. Your class, I shouldn't say finally, but next you get your class. So your class gives you a boost into its primary ability score. So for example, if you wanted to make a cleric, then wisdom would be the ability score that they give you the boost into. So that would give you an extra increase there. And then finally, the actual finally, at the end you get 4 ability boosts that you can assign however you want, following the idea that you can't put 2 boosts into the same stat. So with that, and I know it was something that I sort of ran into when it came to the playtest when I was making the character through that. So if you get free ability boosts from separate sources, you could put them into the same one. So for example, if I wanted to make a really wise halfling cleric, for my background boost, as long as the background one didn't already have wisdom, I could put my free one into wisdom, and I could put my free one that I get just for being a starting character, I could put one of those into wisdom as well. Let's just say I wanted to make a halfling fighter that was strength based. I could put my free boost for the ancestry into strength. I could put the free boost from my background into strength, as long as the background didn't also have strength already. And I could put one of the 4 free ones into strength as well. So I just kind of wanted to clear that up a little bit, and just because there was, I don't want to say confusion, and that was early on when I first started doing the playtest stuff, is when I sort of had that kind of feedback. So I just wanted to sort of maybe clear that up a little bit. So the character creation is a system that I really do like. It allows you to customize and really try to make the character that you want to play. And I think there's something to that. It's as fun as it is to have random dice rolls and things like that to sort of gamble and see what kind of character you can make. It is also nice to have the ability to really design the character that you want to play right from the beginning. So nothing wrong with that. Ability scores still cannot increase above 18 at first level. So you have to be careful with how you assign your boosts and stuff like that. So that was the character, that was stat generation. We talked a little bit about backgrounds and your classes, how they affect things. But I want to go back to ancestries here, which is why I still have this particular page open. Because one of the cool things that they've done with ancestries in 2nd edition is during the playtest, you had the human ancestry had the ability to choose either half-orc or half-elf. And, I always thought that was, a really interesting way of doing it. So they had the ability to access, ancestry feats for, if you were half-elf, you could do human, elf, or half-elf. If you were half-orc, you could take feats that were designed for either humans, orcs, or half-orcs as well. So that was kind of cool. But the other races also have their own heritages. So you think of things like high elves, wood elves, stuff like that. But they've added some to, pretty much all the ancestries have some really interesting heritages, including probably my favorite one, just from a flavor standpoint and just from, it matching the way that I feel about the race when I look at them. And that has to be, I'm going to zoom in here. and that has to be the Hillock Halfling. So your heritages give you some sort of abilities. They could be things like certain things, if you make a saving throw against some sort of triggering effect, a success is considered a critical success. There's things that give you like low light vision. There's all kinds of different like abilities that your heritage can give you, but the Hillock Halfling has to have my favorite. So I'm just going to read this little blurb here. So the Hillock Halfling says, accustomed to a life of calm in the hills, your people find rest and relaxation especially replenishing, particularly when indulging in creature comforts. When you regain hit points overnight, you add your level to the hit points regained. When anyone, and this is my favorite one here, when anyone uses the medicine skill to treat your wounds, you can eat a snack and add your level to the hit points you regain from the treatment. So just going back to like Lord of the Rings and things like Second Breakfast and like, 11Z's brunch, lunch, dinner, supper, the fact that these halflings can literally eat to regain hit points, I just thought was absolutely awesome. So I loved that, and halfling was always one of those races that, typically speaking, I never really got into. But, I'm going to be completely and totally honest here. I kind of want to make a halfling character now, just to be that halfling that gets hit points back because they had a snack while someone's bandaging their wounds. I just think that that's awesome. So that's probably my favorite thing that I've seen so far. But there are a couple of other small things that I wanted to talk about as well in these early impressions. And again, I haven't gotten into the combat system yet, so I can't really say how I feel about that. But it does retain the things like using your perception skill for your initiative or other skills that may apply, like stealth, for example. So I thought that was really, really cool. So I still like the way that is handled. But the thing that I wanted to look at here was when I was going through the classes, I was kind of surprised that I couldn't find the Paladin at first. And, I didn't think they would have dropped the Paladin. It just seemed weird because I was going through like Fighter, Monk, and then it skipped over Paladin and went right into Ranger. I actually remember going back and just making sure that some of the pages weren't kind of stuck together. And then I had to go to I went to the index at the back to find that, there is an entry for Paladin. And what the Paladin is it's a subset, or it's a sort of a different. It's a subclass, I guess you could say, of the champion class. So the champion is sort of like that divine warrior. And what I think is actually kind of cool about the champion is it incorporates all three of the good alignments and gives you different versions of the champion based off of that. And nothing like huge or earth-shattering, but you do have things like, you have to uphold the tenets of your god, and you have to act within, certain guidelines and boundaries based off of the alignment that you have. And I always thought that was really, really, one of the things that I kind of miss about modern RPGs is the fact that alignment literally means nothing. So to see alignment sort of make a small comeback, at the very least, was something that I was really, really happy to see. So for the champion's title is Paladin if they're lawful good, Redeemer if they're neutral good, and Liberator if they're chaotic good. And what that gives them is, like I said, it gives them the same abilities. Like they typically get, they all get the lay on hands ability, for example, but it gives them the sort of extra things that they have to live up to in order to maintain their status, I guess you could say. So for a paladin, for example, you have to follow these tenets in addition to the standard ones just for being a champion. And again, champions are, good aligned. So the paladin must act with honor, never taking advantage of others lying or cheating, and you must respect the lawful authority of legitimate leadership wherever you go and follow its laws. The Redeemer, which is neutral good, says you must first try to redeem those who commit evil acts rather than killing them, players, or meting out punishment. If they then continue on a wicked path, you might need to take more extreme measures. And then the other thing that they have is you must show compassion for others, regardless of their authority or station. And then liberators, the tenets that they add to the things that they have to uphold to be part of the class, is you must respect the choices of others, you must respect the choices others make over their own lives, and you can't force someone to act in a particular way or threaten them if they don't. You must demand and fight for others' freedom to make their own decisions. You may never engage in countenance slavery or tyranny. So, just really, really cool that they had that, and I thought that was pretty awesome. And it's like I said, it's nice to see alignment come back at least a little bit. You also have the Druid class has an anathema, which means that if you act in certain ways that completely break the Druid code, then you actually lose your Druid abilities. And it's just nice to see some of that come back into modern RPGs, which I feel have lost a little bit for not having that. So that's sort of the cool thing that's sort of stuck out for the ancestries as well as the classes so far. I haven't really gotten too much into other things, but I will just show one more thing I actually think is kind of cool, and I'll show this based off of this right here, is each of the classes have a few example or sample versions of them that sort of adhere to other I guess you could call them archetypes or stereotypes, whatever you want to call it. So this is the rogue one here, for example. This is sort of a guideline you can use if you wanted to make a scoundrel type of character. So it gives you like your ability score priorities, what skills you should take, what ability you should take for your starting level, what feat you should take, and what feats you should take at higher levels if you want to sort of have that kind of build. And I think it's just kind of cool to have those templates as well. I think that's a great way, especially if you're a beginner player. Having this sort of template to follow, at least at first, before you decide, get more comfortable, want to start making your decisions. But I think that that's actually something that's really, really cool to have. So other RPGs have had like quick build guides, but it's always the same, for the class, regardless. So it's nice to see like that the scoundrel. This one gives you the thief, and there are actual differences between them. So I thought that was really cool as well. The last thing that I will say that I've noticed so far that I do like is the fact that they did kind of do away with resonance points. So resonance points in the playtest was a resource that you had that you could spend towards like investing in items. So if a magic item had like a basic function or a more powerful function, if you did invest in it, for example, you might get the lesser but not the greater. So if you had like a +1 dancing longsword, for example, if you didn't invest in it, if you didn't spend a resonance point to invest in it, you would still get the +1 bonus, but you wouldn't get the ability to activate its dancing property. So that was something, and some of the classes used to use resonance points as well. So they did get rid of that, but they still have like items that you have to invest into. And it's similar to attunement in another also very relatively new RPG as well. I'm not going to name any names here, but it's similar to attunement. It's kind of the exact same type of idea, but in this one you can invest into up to 10 items at a time. And if you can invest in them, then you can activate their properties, and their property activations may be limited to a set number of times per day. But it's like in the playtest, you had to spend like a resonance point to activate some items. So they did do away with that, but they still tried to put some limit on the amount of items that you can sort of have powered up, I guess you could say, all at once. I feel like 10 might be kind of a high number, and I'll have to read more thoroughly about how that works. How investing works, because it may be up to 10, but there may be some other determining factors. So I'll look up that and sort of get to that when I've had a little bit more time. Because like I said, I've only had a couple of hours to sort of sit through and read this so far. But so far, and again, very, very early first impression, I am very happy with this product. The more that I've looked through this, the more excited that I am at the prospect of running a game. And this is a product line that I want to continue to get. I'm looking to get the adventures when they come out. and any of the other like hardcover books that come out. This is something that, along with Starfinder, I want to collect. So I'm really excited about it so far. Really looking forward to it. The next step for me is to create a character, which I will try to do on camera as well, and test out the combat system and do what I call the goblin test, and see just how powerful the characters are, how much of a fight they could sort of put up against just a single goblin one-on-one. So that'll probably be the next video that comes out, and then we will have the full review for Pathfinder 2nd Edition probably by the end of the week. So when I did the unboxing, I wanted to have my review up on the release date, but I kind of want to get my first impressions video out first, show character creation, have a little bit of time to sort of tinker with the system, maybe even run a short adventure just to sort of see how that goes, and then come back with the final review. But so far, based off of this first 24 hours, I cannot wait to dive further into this book and to start running Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm really excited for this. It's really great to see them sort of create their own sort of ideas and their own system, and really branch out from what the Open Gaming License was back in 2009. So this does show a great amount of improvement in my opinion, and it shows just how much consumer feedback really will impact their decision making. So really happy with it so far. For anyone watching this, let me know, based off of your early impressions, if you picked up the book yourself, what do you guys think of Pathfinder 2nd Edition so far? I'm loving it, and I'm sure that's not going to change, but I would love to hear your feedback as well. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Take care.